Hello, it's October 2nd, 2023, and it's 9 p.m. I had done this video several times today. I was out in nature and I had a couple of issues with the sun and how it interacted with the device that I'm using here, and basically activated temperature control that shut down this device about 10 minutes into a 30-minute conversation. Then I retook that. I did a new take, and I was able to get the entire discussion completed, but then I ran into storage issues on my device. And so, long story short, I deleted all of that video and decided to just start over with a shorter, more abridged version of what I was sharing earlier today. So basically, the question is, how am I doing? Well, number one, it is day 15 of a 30-day fast. So I know that's news to some. There have been many questions about how long am I fasting and what is the nature of my fast. So I'm going to speed through many of these questions, and much of what I had shared for 40 minutes, I'm going to attempt to do that in less than 20. Okay, so I am fasting for 30 days, and I am doing a liquid-based fast. That liquid-based fast consists of spring water, or coconut water, or coconut milk, and tea. So I say or because some days I do all four, some days I do just one, and some days I do two. Usually it's at least two. So I will always have spring water either at the beginning of the day or throughout the day, and then I will alternate between coconut milk on one day and then coconut water on another day. I try not to have coconut water and coconut milk on the same day, right? And the reason for that is just I'm watching the amount of sugar that I intake. And so I want to keep sugar intake below 20 grams, right? I want to keep proteins below 10 grams. And so I'm just doing that methodically and systematically. I had a whole long out discussion about the science of fasting and nutrition and that sort of thing. That will have to wait for another time. But the main thing is, it is a 30-day fast, and if that seems a bit long for others, for some, know that there are many people on record, on the order of about, let's say, 30,000 people on record minimum that have done more than 20 to 30-day fasts, right? There is a person that you can look up if you do a web search for 54-day fast. There's a individual that's done a 54-day water fast, and you know, his story is very well documented, and it's a great interview where a PhD in science is looking at this individual's 54-day water fast and, you know, giving him some good hard-hitting questions. Anyway, there are people that are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that do 60-day and 70-day fasts at least once a year. And so anyway, what they do makes what I'm doing like child's play. Again, my goal with the way I'm fasting is to approach non-physical and spiritual objectives, right? So that's the main objective. So that's pretty much what I would wrap up on how long I'm fasting and what I'm doing with my fast. I'm actually going to have a more detailed discussion about this matter at a future time. So my original plan was to keep the fast on the down low so that there wasn't the type of concern that I have seen here recently, but know that it's all well and good. But the second thing is that I had planned to do a video at the very end of my fast where I collected video along the way, and then I put it all together as one big montage. But I'm still going to do something similar to that, actually. but it's going to be much more narrowly focused. So I am still collecting content, and I'm going to put that together. So the next phase of this, the second phase of this, is I want to talk about the science behind fasting very briefly. There is a gentleman named Alan Goldhammer. I think that's his name, Alan Goldhammer. He runs a facility called True North in California, and he's basically gone through a minimum of 20,000 people that he has supervised. Many of them have done extended fasts, and all is good with that. So I would look up Alan Goldhammer if you wanted to find out more detailed information from his point of view on that. But let's touch on BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, right, which is the renewal of your brain and your synapses. Let's also touch on ketosis, which is a state that your body's in when you go on a prolonged fast and you minimize the amount of sugars you intake as well as proteins. And let's talk about autophagy. So real quick, BDNF, your brain is renewing, your synapses are renewing, you're getting a flush of your mind, of your thoughts, the way you think. In my case, it's made me think in a sharper, more pointed way. I tend to speak a little bit more direct than I have been in the past, and I'm able to put together different points in a way that I can noticeably observe is much more fluid and much more adept than in times past. So I like that aspect. Ketosis is where your body is burning fat rather than sugar, right? You're burning off fat rather than sugar. And so I'm summarizing a lot of research that I've done, but you're burning off of fat instead of sugar, and that is very beneficial and nutritive to the body's cycle. So I like that aspect as well. I'm 132 pounds right now, and so people are going to say, oh, what about protein and what about weight? I'm going to cover that in the third phase of this discussion. And then you have autophagy and mitophagy, and basically any damaged cells, any damaged material that's in your body, malformed, mutated, whatever, it all gets cleaned up. So let's take out the trash, let's take out the garbage, let's get all of that cleaned out from top to bottom. There is no science that's going to say you have a net amount of this damage in your body, and then when you go through autophagy or mitophagy, on the other side of the equal sign, you got this net amount of reduction in damaged cells and damaged material within your body, right? You can only look at that in a macro way. Oh, you had this serious condition or symptom or whatever, and whatever you did, you seem to be, in a much better shape, compared to before. And people have used fasting protocols to achieve similar effects like that, but you can't put it under a microscope and say, okay, this is, we had 1,000 units of this damage, and then after you went through this fasting protocol, you now have 500 units of this damage left, which is a great, you've reduced your damage by 950 units. Just an example. There's no science like that I know of at this stage. But mitophagy and autophagy is a great way for your body to use its own natural code, right? It's like a software program, Windows, Mac, when you factory reset them. If they were slow before, they had all these issues, you factory reset them, and you now got a clean flush of your system. It's the same way with fasting. It's a factory reset, and you're good to go. All right, third phase, because 4K video at 60 frames per second takes a lot of storage on a device, and I've had so many hurdles with this that it's like, okay, let's make this video short so that there are no more logistical issues trying to get this uploaded tonight. All right, so here's the last thing. Protein, weight. Okay, so people will say, oh, what about your protein? I say, okay, what about it, right? And that's not meant to be so adversarial or confrontational or anything like that, but it's like, okay, and then what? What about your protein? Okay, what about the protein? All right, so it's like, but the doctor said, and it's like, the doctor said what, right? What did the doctor say? Well, if you don't get your protein, then bad things can happen. You could end up with whatever. And those are actually the exact words. It's the whatever, it's the bad things can happen. It's not specific. It's not clear cut. It's not where it's say, okay, you didn't get enough protein, so now this happens, right? Now, we can extend that to say, okay, if you don't get enough protein, you don't build muscle, right? Or you start to see a reduction in muscle. Then, okay, you ask yourself, why is that a bad thing? Why is muscle reduction a bad thing? Can we walk through that process of saying, okay, muscle reduction, do I actually need as much muscle as I've had? Am I a bodybuilder? Do I work on an oil rig? Do I work in heavy industrial situations or settings that mandate that? Am I in the type of sports or athletic activities that require or benefit from that type of muscle mass, right? Or that level of muscle? And what is the counter to that? Are there negative effects from too much protein, right? Is protein really something that's vital to survival, right? Most of these concerns that we have, they go through our mind without the logical breakdown. It basically comes down like this. Oh, the doctor said it was bad, so what that means is I could perish, I could die off. And that's not true. If you take a formula, on this side of the equal sign is your life input, and on the other side of the equal sign is, okay, life or death. All right, so for any of these questions about medical or about science or about whatever, nutrition, about our bodies, we're looking at the other side of the equal sign. Does it equal life or death, right? And so proteins become much more like a religion than a solid fact, where it's like, okay, so yeah, I know people studied protein in a lab, and I know they studied these things, but can we actually show in the real world that cutting your protein to less than 7 grams a day, if you're under the recommended daily allowance, RDA, of protein, that you're actually going to, of 20 grams, that you're actually going to have severe issues? Well, so we can use inductive analysis for that. I'm going to wrap this up. But inductive analysis, okay, let's do an observation. If we got 20,000 people that did long-term fasting for 20 days at least, and we know we got some that did 30 days, and we know we have people that do it for 40 and 50 days, just water fast. Water only fasting. This is an analysis, okay? A very basic one. It's crude, I know. And they went all those days without protein, and they're still alive, then what does that tell you about protein? It tells you that it's not critical and it's not as vital as it's been made out to be. Okay, so weight. All right, second part of that. You're losing weight. I'm at 32 pounds. People are like, you're losing too much weight. What is too much weight to lose? How do you define losing too much weight? I know that sounds so cold and methodical, but it's a legitimate question. What is too much weight to lose? Right? There's no real answer to that. Okay, so then that leads to my final statement on this, and I'm going to wrap up. My final statement on this, and this is a little lighthearted, so this is not meant to be super serious, but just to think. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin, right? All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWE, WWF, right? Major wrestler. He can handle his business, right? Muscular, built, gonna really handle his business and get the job done, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin. All right, cool. Now, you see how much stat can you see in your mind? He got this stature. All right, so now we're not actually in the ring. We're not actually doing wrestling. We're on the streets. Stone Cold Steve Austin, let's just say, because Stone Cold Steve Austin's a nice guy, actually. It's a cool fella, right? So he's not trying to start nothing in real life. He's just whatever. But let's say we're in an alternate universe where Stone Cold Steve Austin is, kind of a jerk, and he just wants to like show his stuff, right? And then he runs into none other than Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee looks more like me, right? Thin, toned, because I got kind of a physique more like Bruce Lee. When I take these clothes off and I look in the mirror, right, I'm like, oh, I got a warrior profile. I'm talking about old school warrior out in the desert, able to just move and flow and that sort of thing, right? And I do have a warrior spirit, by the way. But, okay, when we're not talking about like gripping somebody, and even then, somebody who is as well trained as Bruce Lee with a thinner profile, but has an intelligence about him and how to move and use his body in a variety of ways, is taking down Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's all I got to say on weight. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, hopefully I've answered all the questions that people will have about any of this. I will have future videos, but not for a good while because I got a pretty busy schedule this week and next week. And so I'm going to put a little bit of effort into my next video, which is going to be a little bit more systematic, methodical, structured, right? And so this is going to be the end of the impromptu, ad hoc, off-the-cuff videos for a good while. So I will see you later on. If you have any comments, drop them. I'll answer them as quickly as I can. And like the video because that just shows me if there's some participation. So I'll see you later. Thank you. You like my my pants, linen pants? Pretty cool, man.